very soon so that you'll be able to access these recordings and then review all of our lovely teachings. So good morning to all. It is 9:05 a.m. here on the West Coast in the fun and sun capital of the world. And we're going to talk today about, well, actually, I think we've got, is it our first retro week? It is our first retro week. That's tremendous. And so I will be leading some retros. I promise it's going to be fun. We won't do anything too terrible to you all there. But so before we get into that, Tanner, take it away on the demo front.
Sure. Yeah. So I guess the first step here is decide who wants to demo first. Is there any volunteer excited to show us what you built last week?
I think me and Manon.
All right.
First.
Cool. Yeah. Let's see what you built.
Cool. So let me just share this right quick. All right. You want to start off on the code or?
Yeah, we could start off on the code and I guess we'll just we're gonna just be able to show after that what it is that we built this week. So good morning, and I want to start off by kind of just pointing out what the acceptance criteria was for our issue this week. We had issue number 4, and our acceptance criteria started off with us needing to have the user being presented with a form that allows them to enter the name of an item and select how soon they anticipate needing to buy that item again. So specifying whether they need it soon, which would be 7 days, kind of soon, which would be 14, and not soon, which would be 30. And when the user submits the form, that the item be saved to the database associated with the user's token. And along with the item name, an integer corresponding to the estimated number of days until the next purchase is saved, and that the last purchase date should be set to null initially. And last, that the item name should be displayed as a simple unordered list on the view list page after they have been added. So Arvin and I started off by creating a form in our components add item under the components folder. And we created state that would set our item and urgency whenever the user needs it. So right now our urgency is set initially to 7, and we have our item set to an empty string. And then after that, we had set up our handle submit functionality, which basically at this time passes in token to our database. And we've also passed in our item urgency. And here you could also see that last purchase is set to null as well. And so to make sure that when the user presses submit and it shows on the view list page, we can go to the view list component. So that way we can show you, yep. So here you could see the token is passed to the collection that's on line 6. And when we map over our collection, what we did was added .item on line 18, that's line 18. So that way we just get that one specific item that the user has passed in. And if now I guess we could kind of go over what it looks like on the front end. So if you're able to start up your server, Arvin, and we can kind of show what that looks like. Yep. So go ahead.
Initially, you would be directed to this homepage, right? If you haven't created a list yet. We already did that. And what that does is just create a token for you. And we used the code from the other team, which was just merged yesterday. And that's just setting the token using the library from the TCL, the Collab lab, and setting it to local storage. And from there, it passes it down to add item component and view list component as props. And yeah, so here it is showing the items for that specific token. And when we go to add a new item, we could just, I always use the same things, but Kiwi, and put not soon. And when we add it, it resets the form. And we could see it render on the list already, right? So on the console, this would look something like this, which is the token. And for every new user or token generated, a new collection would be created with the token as an ID, right? Yeah, I think that's about it. Anything else you think I'm missing one on?
No, I think that's pretty good. Maybe you can briefly talk about the field set portion
Okay.
within the form.
Yeah, so right, it wasn't a requirement, I think, in the criteria, but the wireframe did recommend using a field set just because it's better for accessibility, and just more semantically correct, I guess. So initially we had a div here, and then we just used the field and this legend, which serves as a caption. This form is a controlled form. We're using the state here, right? So the value for the input field for the name, for the item's name, is the state, and on change we update it with every key press or down, or using the on change event, and use the set item along with the event, the target, and the value to update the input. And sorry. And then we use this check property to control the radio buttons, right? And you pass the on change function, which is the set urgency, the set state from the urgency state, to just update it, and it checks on every input. If the urgency is equal to 7, it marks it as checked, and so on and so forth, right? That way, whenever a radio button is pressed, it updates the state, and therefore it shows on the view.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then what else? View list. Yeah, view list. Manon already went over. We're using this hook here from the React Firestore base hooks. And if there's an error, we render the error. When it's loading, we just render this loading. And once the value come back, we just render the list. I think that's it for our feature.
Cool. You said you were associating these items with the token. Can you show me where you're doing that?
Yeah. Oh, right here. So we're getting it passed down from home. Sorry, from app.
Mhm.
And yeah, we just destructor it here. It comes in as an object, and it either creates a new collection with this token as an ID, or just adds to it whatever we pass in here. The last purchase to know initially, the urgency in the item, which is just the state. And then after that's done, we just submit it, reset it again using the state.
Very cool. And can we look at the app component where we're calling add item here?
Yeah. Right here. This is what the other team did. So once we got how we were gonna get the token, then we updated it. So main doesn't really, well, main looks like this on this file, but here we did a few changes before the meeting. And this is what we're gonna be pushing afterwards. Cool. It works good.
Yeah,
and
this is all awesome.
Yeah.
But this isn't on prod yet, is that right?
Not quite, just because we do have a few changes here. But a few minor changes. It's just taking in the token and replacing it for lists.
Nice.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
You guys work fast because I pulled your branch down because I wanted to see if it was working with our code yet. And I just did that earlier today and it hadn't been updated yet. So you guys are fast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It wasn't that much.
Yeah, we were talking this morning and we ran a console log just to see what token was. And it was actually Arvin that kind of like pieced it together. He was like, wait, like I think it's coming from here. And then I was mentioning some of the comments that Lauren made within the merge yesterday. So I was like, yeah, like I think that's maybe what's trying to happen, I guess, too. So yeah.
Yeah, that was all great. I really liked how you like recapped the requirements before we started looking at the code. It made me feel like I knew what we were kind of taking a look at, or clearer, which is awesome. Because usually when you do a demo, there's going to be some people on the call that might have no idea what they're looking at, and they've just been called in to look at your stuff. Not saying that's the case today, but that was a great example of what to do there. Very nice.
Yeah, that was Manon's idea right there. Shout out to Manon.
Thank you.
Absolutely agree. That was terrific. Love those demos. I'm going to send out a Slack message to in TCL 33 with a link to the retro board, and I'm also going to share my screen for the retro portion. So
Does Jennifer have?
Yeah, I think
Oh,
Jennifer
sorry,
might want to hop up.
my
I'm still here, you guys.
tragic
Skip.
Yeah, no, there's a reason my camera's off. I'm a wreck today, but yeah, my demo is super quick, and Lauren did she did the 11th hour work adding that token prop in that you guys used for years. But I can do super quick demo. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, let's see it.
Really.
don't feel the need to rush. That was just the fact that I woke up, 20 minutes ago and don't have any coffee in me yet. So terribly sorry about that.
Oh, no biggie, no problem. Can you guys see?
Yep.
Okay. So similar to Manon and Arvin, I'm just going to start with the acceptance criteria, which I made this a lot more difficult than I had to, Tanner. You know that. You saw what was going on. But
Well,
essentially,
in your defense, I think you were really close. It just had to move a couple things over, but
yeah, I had to delete a bunch of stuff. Actually, Lauren deleted the stuff for me. But we really only had three things. We had to generate a new unique token, which the other group was able to use. We needed to save the token to the local storage, and then we had to show the user the list view. So instead of showing the code, especially since some of the stuff is behind the scenes, I thought I'd go ahead and start by showing what's in the browser and local storage. So that's just the little button that we had. That's what we added. We'll get into our local storage here so that you all can see what's being generated. I don't know, can you guys read this at all? Can you see what's in the local storage?
yeah, I see it.
Okay. Okay, great. So here's where we generate the new list. We just click on the button and it generates this token here with the key token and the value, which is 3 kind of words. Some of them aren't even words. But that takes you into the view list page, and that's where you can see the items that were added. So in this case, someone had added banana. And that's pretty much it. And then you can clear this out. And then at this point, I think we have to refresh the page to get back home. But I think at some point when we merge everything will be updated so that you should just be able to click on home. It'll take you home. But if there is something in the list, if I go ahead and say I tried this out this morning just to make sure it worked. Yeah, it automatically redirects you. So that takes us into the code section. So those three acceptance criteria were met because we did generate a new unique token. We saved it to local storage and it redirected the user to the list view. And it automatically does that as soon as you open the browser. Okay, so behind the scenes, my code, here it is. Okay, so behind the scenes. Okay, so most of the work was actually done in the app.js file, and that's where we created that token prop that Arvin and Manon used for their code. And that is all up here. And that was actually passed over to our component, which I'll show in a second here. So we set our token. And of course, the initial state is null. We brought in the use effect hook where that sets the user to get that token with local storage. And this is how we created the token, where we initialized it right here. And then this is where we set it into local storage. And when we scroll down a bit here, this is actually in our navigation. And this is the ternary where if we have a token, it's going to go ahead and redirect us to the view list. So earlier when I showed how I opened up the browser, there was already a token there. It automatically redirects you to the view list page. So you don't even go to the home page.
Awesome.
Otherwise, if you are trying to get to the home page, you can get to the home page. And if you click on the submit button, it does generate that token and it starts that whole process for you. And then you can see this is where Arvin and Manon were able to use the token, and it was passed through here too. And if you look in our homepage, that shows the submit button. And in the component, when we create the list, that shows the submit button and how it's passed through to create that new list with the token. And I think that was pretty much it. I don't recall putting anything else anywhere else. So that was what we did. It was pretty simple, just making the button, but all of the logic. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you so much, Lauren. So does anyone have any questions?
I think it all looks really great. It was a clever use of a ternary there and using the kind of built-in redirect component that React Router gives you. That was smart. It's good to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. Like, I thought it was so cool how you did the ternary there, because I was trying to go back to the home and I'm just like, hold up, is the home the same as the view list? And then I looked at the URL and saw that it was just redirecting. So that's
Oh,
dope.
I've got a shout out to Lauren on that one, because I actually had I was doing a use history push elsewhere, and then she helped me with that redirect.
I do have a question on the little on the app.js. If you could just go there real quick, and like when you go up on not create token, right? Because you're just setting it to local storage. Like on the use effect, is that when is that running? Like, does it run every time you switch? Do you change the token, or like every time the
That's the setter and the getter from what I understand, because that if there is a token in there, you have your user, and it allows you to get that token from local storage. And
then,
that's expressed in that array after online 16.
Okay, set token user.
And that user is the same user that you see on line 15.
Okay. All right. That looks great. And it works perfect too.
Well, except I'm still questioning, Lauren, because I tried it out this morning and we were trying to get it so that it would update. It would update as soon as, well, where is it now? Hold on, I need to see it. I still wanted it to try to update so that I don't know. I know I pulled it twice just to make sure that it wasn't something I was messing up with. And so I don't know. So if I clear out the token and then I try to go home, for some reason, it's not letting me go home. And I don't know why.
Mm.
I don't know why. If we could,
Yeah, off the
Hmm.
top of my head, I don't know the answer.
It's probably because your state value
Mhm.
might still exist there, because like the home, like the app component that is holding your token, it doesn't know that it's been cleared.
Okay.
So if we go look at your code real quick, I can kind of maybe
Okay.
walk you through what I think might be happening.
Okay.
So this is our app component, and this is kind of always on screen because this is the root of our component, right?
Right.
And if we look at our use effect on line 13, the dependency array there on actually line 16, I should say, is saying only go and check if the token exists if our token changes. But the token we're referring to that we're watching is the one that's already stored in state. So effectively what this means is if we clear out our token in our local storage, we're not watching to see if that changes. And our token is already stored in our state in our root component when we first load the page the first time. And
Right.
so our app isn't smart enough to know that that changed. And so it's still behaving as if the token exists in local storage when it hasn't.
Okay. And that's why I have to refresh in order to go home.
Correct. Right.
Okay.
So yeah, and then when it refreshes, that's when the user effect will run again because the token doesn't exist at that point. And then it will discover that the token's not there and it starts behaving like we would expect it to.
Okay. I wasn't too worried about it because we didn't even have a home page in the navigation from what I recall. I just threw it in there because it was more convenient than having to keep changing the stuff in the little browser window. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's something that
Yeah.
that
So
is a concern, or if it's not an issue because we're probably going to be removing that home nav anyway.
yeah, I think it's a double-edged sword. I don't know of many web apps that would dynamically like adjust on the fly if you were to just click that button, like to clear the state. What you would probably see is like a logout button that would then interact with the local storage dot, I think it's delete item. And so that would delete the token from your local storage via JavaScript instead of just clicking the delete button. And then
Okay.
at that point, we could then, just like how we're creating our token and setting it there and then setting it to state, we could do local storage dot delete item token and then set the state back to null. And that would kind of make our app refresh and behave the way we would expect it to. So I think the issue that we're seeing is, one, we haven't built in like that quote unquote log out behavior, which is what I'll refer to this as. And then two, like you probably shouldn't be using or a user shouldn't be clearing their local storage that way and expect it to work. There would probably be like a lockout button that we could then implement behavior around to make the app behave the way we would expect it to.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Hopefully that made sense. Sometimes I've got no coffee in me, and like I said, it's early here, so. It's a good observation though. Like when it comes to testing your code, that was a nice work.
Okie folks. Now I think it might actually be time to change to the portion of this where we do the retro. So I have already sent you the location of the retro link in Slack. You should all feel free to join me there. I'm also going to share my screen. Before we go, yes, just wanted to call out, those were both really excellent demos. I really did appreciate, like Tanner said, that you all took the time to say what the acceptance criteria and the goal were, and to show us both like a sort of a UI demo that shows how everything comes together and the code at various points. Those were both really useful and essential components, I think, especially considering the audience, which is us. So anywho, let's see here. So I have to delete some columns that I don't understand how they got here. But let me share my screen now. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. So what we have here is the 4 columns of the apocalypse.
It might be a little small though. We also see
Okay.
like a Vim window on the right, it looks like.
Yeah, let me blow this up.
Got that ultra wide lifestyle. I like it.
Cool. So we have 4 columns here. Kudos, what went well, what could have gone better, and action items. These are mostly pretty self-explanatory, but the difference between kudos and what went well is a little bit delicate, I would say. So kudos are going to be, I would say, individual and or possibly group shout-outs if you wanted to mention, as I will here. Shout out to Tanner and Lauren for great code reviews this week. That's something you might add in kudos, whereas with what went well, you might be more inclined to talk about which parts of the project were maybe easier to implement, or where you feel like you really learned something important, or anything about the work that went positively that isn't specifically a compliment to somebody else. And so in this case, you might talk about anything sort of work-wise that went well. And just so with what could have gone better, these are areas where maybe you struggled more than you wanted to, or where you were not completely satisfied by the resolution. These are things that maybe we as mentors can take a look at and work on improving. Even week over week, we're really receptive to that kind of thing, just because we want everybody to have a good experience here. So, and then with action items, don't fill that one out just yet. As we go through the retro board in review, we're going to make action items based on things we see in all of these columns. So for now, what I'd like everyone to do is go through on this board. I'm going to put a timer up on the screen, and that's just going to kind of give you an indication, like, I think we should probably take about 7 minutes for this. So I'm going to grab this timer window here and say start countdown, 7 minutes. Everybody get on the page and start adding stuff. Actually, that was the internal brain reason why I had this window smaller, is I was going to stick the timer over here.
And this is the retro board you shared in the TCL
Yes.
33 channel.
Yeah. Anybody not able to access it?
I've got mine here.
I can access it, but I am so sorry. I don't know how to add anything here.
Oh, it'll be a little plus, like so. And then enter a node and hit add.
I don't have a plus. I have the 3 little dots.
Oh, so. Lauren, did I do the board wrong?
No, I have the plus. I'm
Oh,
gonna
you're
look
not
into
logged in?
settings. Not sure.
You have to be logged into your GitHub account in order for this to work. So if you're not, that might.
Oh, geez. I'm sorry.
I'm
Thank
gonna give
you.
us 7 more minutes back on the clock, just so everybody can have a chance. These do not all have to start with shout out. I was just under pressure. And don't be afraid to tell us what we can do better. I promise we can take it. We have thick skins. That one is a little bit aggressive looking, but it's for me, so. Anybody else still working on any? Okay, well, in that case, I think I'm probably going to call it there since we had a little bit of a reset in the middle. And let's just, okay, so the way this is generally going to work is that and or whoever's leading the retro that week is going to go through the columns vertically, and each person who wrote a note on the card we'll just maybe explain it a little bit or read it out loud and kind of if there's any more detail that you don't feel like you can express in the short form you have here, we can all have a discussion about it. If there's anything that maybe needs discussing, if it's just a kudos, then it can be great to hear that out loud too. So not a bad thing to just read it. So let's start with Arvin. Looks like you've got a couple up top here.
Yeah. Right. So fast help and feedback from teams on Slack and mentors is what I meant to put. Mentors and colleagues, right? Just because I remember being stuck on what was it? It was like a dependency issue or something after doing bundle. And then after like, I struggled for a bit and then I posted it on Slack and Lauren replied within minutes and boom, I went on to actual code instead of debugging and Googling. And also for Jennifer for a great solo demo today.
Absolutely. Echoing that, y'all have been doing a great job with all of your feedback to each other and mentors. Great work as well on that, especially Lauren, that you've been clutch this week. Thank you very much. And great work, Jennifer, on your solo demo. I know it's probably not been the easiest week, but thanks also to Tanner separately for hopping in. You'll get some kudos from the rest of us further down the list. Jennifer, you're up next.
Right. I just wanted to specifically thank Lauren and Tanner. And I do understand now that I needed to throw the questions up into the general Slack channel, the TLC 33, I guess. But really your very, very specific help made all the difference. This would not have gotten done without your very, very specific help and guidance. And Tanner, that 20-minute video, I promise I watched every minute of it twice. So yeah,
I'm glad to hear it because I
appreciate it.
recorded every minute of it twice. And the first time I was like, that was terrible. I'm going to redo this. So that's good to hear. Glad it helped.
Cool. All right. And as for me, I wanted to just thank Lauren for posting the pre-meeting summary. That was a good move and it's something I probably should have done myself, but thank you for stepping in and getting everybody primed for this meeting. And for running a very productive office hour. Sounds like folks got a lot done there too. So just once again, thanks so much for that. And let's see here, Mena next.
Yeah, I wanted to shout out to my team, and when I meant team, I meant like mentors and also my collabs for great communication, because I saw at times that there was a lot that was going on, and I saw the mentors jumping in to help, and also to Arvin for handling the token, because there was a point midweek around like Wednesday or Thursday where our scheduling kind of got a little awry, and he was able to kind of jump in and work on updating the state and also adding in some attributes on the form.
Cool. Lauren, I believe you're next up.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Tanner, for jumping in to help out this week when Ikram wasn't feeling well. So to help Jennifer, that was awesome. And then Jennifer, thank you for reaching out for help. Like, it's so powerful to know when to reach out for help. And so I just really appreciate you doing that.
Cool. And I absolutely second that emotion. Definitely a great thing to be able to reach out for help. We're absolutely here for all of you. And yeah, that's 100% true. So, and then finally, it was just my sort of demo comment, which is still true. Tanner and Lauren, I know you both did some great code review work this week. I'm less good at reviewing JavaScript than you two, so thank you for being the rock of this team for code review goodness. And now let's move on to the what went well column, and starting with Jennifer.
So I was frankly amazed when I saw your demo and you had already pulled all that code together, and I was really, really impressed, because that was just yesterday. That was just yesterday added, and I didn't know if you'd have time. That was great.
That was very impressive, folks. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. I will add for my card, I felt both demos were phenomenal. Y'all did great work. I know it's been covered in kudos, but it went smoothly. Tanner, great work with running that section and with providing some of that extra in-depth feedback on some of those questions about a couple of issues that were outstanding. And as well, just all presenters did excellent work. So I have nothing but positive things to say. Manon, you're next.
Yeah, I also said nice collaboration on merges and great demos. Like, yeah, I saw there was just tremendous growth. It's only been 1 week in terms of the demo. So I thought that they were just amazing. Jennifer did an amazing job handling it solo. Arvin, of course, my partner, did amazing. And merges, I think it was because we, like Lauren and Jennifer, we were on at the same time. And I think that scheduling has a big part to do with it, because we were kind of on at the same time. Things happened fairly quickly. So we were kind of able to answer each other's questions quickly. So I thought that went really well.
Cool. Yeah, certainly it sounds like it was a really good week for getting a lot of that kind of mechanical work done. And next one is Jennifer.
So Ikram isn't here right now. I'm not really sure what her work schedule looked like, but I did want to point out that she made time, especially in the beginning of the week when we are supposed to be doing the bulk of the work, so that we can get things pushed sooner rather than later. She did manage, she had just gotten off of a really, really long shift, and she had taken care of her, all of the after work stuff. And we met for over an hour. And that was really tough for her because she was just starting to feel better. I haven't heard from her since then, but I do know that she has a lot going on. So I did want to point out that even though she's not here today, when she was able to meet with us, she was 100% present.
I'm really happy to hear that, and I certainly hope she's feeling better this coming week. So we'll all hold a good thought for Ikram this week, and hopefully she'll be able to pop in at full strength tomorrow, or if not, there's nothing more important than your health. So yeah, just hoping everything is okay with her. But I'm glad to hear that she had a good week for the elements that she was able to participate in. That's great to hear for sure. But hopefully someone hears from her soon, because again, we worry. And next card is Lauren's.
Yeah, I want to second what Manon said, that there was such huge growth between last week and this week on demos. Like, everyone just knocked it out of the park today. That was fantastic. Great work, everyone jumping in on code review and trying something new and commenting on other people's issues. That was fantastic. And yeah, Manon, that was super fun. Like yesterday when we were all just kind of chatting back and forth about who merges first. That was great. That was really fun. So that went really well, everyone.
Cool. All righty. Moving on to the fun column. What could have gone better? So in this column, please feel free to be honest. And these are definitely things. We're all here for each other effectively. So we're looking all the time at ways we can make the experience better. And find new tools, find new methodologies, find things that work specifically just for this group, and find things that can improve the experience for everybody. So without further ado, Manon, what did you think here about, and I noticed you say communication and scheduling between teams.
Yeah, I think they kind of interplay together, because scheduling is such a huge part of things. And I think that when there are conflicting schedules, it kind of makes things hard to get things pushing and running on time within a decent time frame. Because I do feel like our issues this week kind of trickled a little bit into the weekend. And I don't know, I wouldn't say we were behind per se, but it would be really nice if we could try to aim for having our merges done on Friday. That way we could chill out on Saturday and come in on Sunday, just refreshed and understanding what we want to do for our demos and making that the sole purpose. And so, in terms of communication, that's where I feel like we could be a bit better, because if we're not sure or clear what our schedules are, then if we do have an issue, it may be hours to be able to resolve that issue. And so that creates more time, and I think that we could just solidify that a little bit better, maybe suggest we kind of put out there as a team, hey, these are the times that generally we are like available. Like maybe it could be like afternoons, like 2 p.m. onward, like that most people are on. So that way we know that we could find everybody after 2 p.m. at some point, you know, so there's not so much back and forth for figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and then things pop up and then we can't do it. So that's how I feel about that.
Cool, that makes a ton of sense. And I think, you know, just reading over the rest of the cards before even getting to everyone's perspective, it does seem like that's a bit of a theme this week. So I think we'll want to, I'd love to hear Jennifer's perspective on this too, because it seems like there's some other scheduling things and I'd like to get all perspectives on it, but let's maybe brainstorm some solutions about how we can do this better when we get into the action items element, or maybe toward the end of this column. So Jennifer, without further ado.
I think what Mana just said 100% applies not just to the what goes on between the teams, but within the teams, because I really did have a difficult time scheduling with my partner, and I let it go so long that I really should have just reached out, I think, to the group in general and maybe found outside resources to help figure out. I just had trouble figuring out how to really get the acceptance criteria. I was in a lot of different directions. And so Tanner helped, but by the time I was working on that, it was already into Wednesday and Thursday. And I was trying to scramble to push something. And then finally I got to talk to Lauren, and that helped to clarify things a lot. But I think that was on Friday, Lauren, that the bulk of it was done. And ideally I would have communicated with the other team that I was having trouble just getting part of my ticket done, our ticket done, because they needed to use the token prop that we were building. And so they wouldn't have had to scramble at the last minute to incorporate that if we had actually set things up earlier and communicated with them. All of that would have been available to them earlier. So the scheduling is a major issue, and I'm not really sure how to address it. If for some reason half of a team or parts of the team can't seem to meet up, I'm not really sure how to handle that. So I'm really interested to hear what other people recommend or suggest.
And I think to that end, Lauren, it looks like, I mean, I think I agree with what I see written out here in your card, but if you'd care to, elaborate, I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Sure. So like from the mentor perspective, I was concerned during the first couple of weeks because I'm not seeing a lot of communication that's happened. Like I'm not seeing communication that's happening in Slack. So either it's happening via direct message or it's not happening, one or the other, and I'm unsure what's happening. So I would encourage you, it's like, especially on a remote team, right? You're not going to run into your colleague walking down the hallway. I would encourage everyone, unless it absolutely needs to be in a direct message, I would encourage you to communicate out in the open on the TCL 33 channel. Like that'll help your other teammates know what's going on. It'll help your mentors know what's going on. Like on a remote team, communicating, like the appropriate level of communication is going to feel like over communicating. You're going to feel like, oh, now I'm going to get a snack. Like sometimes it is that detailed. So I think that might help with some of the scheduling problems, but I don't know that I don't know that it'll solve it. Yeah, but not.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Two questions. One, can we maybe go over now what is proper, not proper per se, like what communication is best for DM? Like if we want to DM, what should we put there? And also like what would be best for like just groups? So for example, like let's say I want to schedule with my partner, right? Do I put that in the group, like chat, or is it like, hey, that's something that I could DM with my partner? So that's clear. And then also too, and maybe that I could ask that later, but the question I had was, do retros also include personal reflections as well, in terms of like maybe something that we've learned about ourselves and like in general, like, is that something that is a part of retros as well? That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, Lauren.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm going to address your first question too, Manon. So in our Slack channel, at the end of our weekly sync, we post a pairing thread. You maybe have seen that. So it says like what the issue is that your pair is working on for the week, and the people that are working on it together. So I would use that as as a thread to kind of communicate back and forth. So if you're trying to coordinate schedules, like that's what a lot of teams do. They'll coordinate their schedules in that thread. They'll like throw research in there that's like, oh, I'm looking into React Router DOM, and this is the information that I'm finding, and just posting all of that information in that thread. It's a handy place to do that.
Thank you. Yeah, that clarifies, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that, because I would just like when I've worked with my partners, like it would be like if I found a resource within our Zoom meeting, it's like, oh yeah, here's a resource. We're passing it in the chat that way, but not necessarily like, I guess more when we're working async, right? Or yeah, like that's when that would definitely, okay.
Yeah, one thing I found with especially resources is that it can take a lot of time for one person to absorb a concept and apply it, but it can take a considerably shorter amount of time for that same person to explain what they learned to other people. And when it comes to echoing information you've learned to the team around you, you very quickly become a really valuable resource to the team, because you're not the only one learning, and you're kind of bringing up everyone along with you. And if everyone on the team is doing that, then everyone is learning at, what is that, like 4x versus 1x, and you become a lot stronger of a developer very quickly through that.
Yeah, I think, you know, as for like kind of communication and scheduling, in many cases, you know, async work is taking the place of synchronous work these days. And I would kind of have to echo Lauren's point that it can be really useful just to put everything out in the open, and to put everything out in the open publicly in TCL 33. I think, you know, I guess I would say it may be beneficial to really try oversharing on scheduling this week. And does anyone have any other ideas about ways we can kind of, I don't know, improve scheduling? Like we could, I mean, ways we can facilitate from, you know, from here is, I guess we could put together some doodles and throw together maybe like mutual availability slots for much of the team on a daily basis, if that's of interest to anybody. But, you know, I think part of, you know, the process of the Collab Lab too is learning, at least these days, how to work in an async world. And so part of that is like really figuring out how to get together when you're available at different times. I personally work with half of my team is in London and a third is in Australia. So like I'm never awake at the same time as a lot of people who need to look at my code. So it's something you'll have to deal with in the real world too. This one is true in the game and in real life. So definitely worth putting in some, I guess, some time to evaluate how different async strategies can work for you, I think. Just a thought. But like I said, if it is helpful, I'm happy to facilitate in a more organized way.
Not to interject, unfortunately, I have a hard stop right now, so I have to jump off. But thank you all for everything, and I will see you throughout the week on Slack and next week.
Thanks, Tanner. See ya.
Thanks,
Thank
Tanner.
you.
Thank you, Tanner.
Alrighty. But yeah, Lauren, I don't know, do you have any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I would just say a huge part of the collab, like the point of Collab Lab, is to learn these collaboration skills. Like it's all a part of the process. And I love seeing the growth that's happened between the end of the very first week and the end of this week, like everyone, we're exactly where we should be. Everyone's learning the things that they're supposed to learn, and like learning how to coordinate those schedules or figure out a different path, and learning how to communicate out in the open on a remote team is like the point of Collab Lab. So like this is the good stuff. I'm glad that we're talking about it. This is a really excellent retro.
I was very pleased with it too. I think, with that in mind, maybe the thing to do this week is to assign some issues and to maybe move forward with the understanding that one solution to this can be really good Slack async openness and self-organization of a lot of meetings that I think fall into. But I think if we do it in a top-down kind of way, you might get less from that experience. So hopefully the fact that yes, Jennifer.
Oh, my question's not immediately. I was just going to ask if someone, because I'm in Slack right now, and you had mentioned a pairing or a pair part of a channel, and I'm looking for it.
Oh, yeah. You know what? When I go over issues, can I share that, Scott? Actually, I can just share it and I can show you what that looks like. Cool.
Is that like the pair bot that's post?
Yes, exactly right.
Okay.
So let me share. Can people see my Slack right now?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so we're in TCL 33. So I'm going to scroll up and find the end of, here we are. Okay, so this is what I post right away after our weekly syncs. I'll do this TCL 33 pair bot. So Jennifer and Ikram use this thread to coordinate this week's work, blah, blah, blah. And then if you go to reply to thread here, it'll let you, it shows you what issue you're working on, and then you can use this thread to kind of organize that information.
So Lauren, is that where you would look to, if we had a question and we just kind of threw it out there, is that where you would look to see where we are with things?
Yeah, that's probably the best place to coordinate it. I mean, it's okay too. Like Arvin had a specific question this week. He was running into some weird issues with his node modules, and this is totally cool too. But just I think the more communication that happens out in the open in this channel, it doesn't have to be in those threads, but it's a nice way to keep it organized, I guess. And I usually, like as a mentor, I will usually either like put an emoji on there, or I'll check in on purpose on these threads to look to see what's happening, because then I'll get notified that there are messages happening. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
pointing that out. Yeah.
So when we have questions about the AC, do we address them here on Slack or on GitHub?
Oh, I would do that on Slack too.
Okay.
Yep, GitHub notifications are not great. Not great. And so a lot of us like turn them off. I on purpose check in on like pull requests for sure. I'm always on the lookout for pull requests. But like on the GitHub issues, I won't necessarily see those notifications, because just GitHub notifications can be kind of a mess. But on Slack, I would do that.
Cool. All right. Well, I believe, unless anyone would like to make any additional points on the retro, it might be issue time. Going once? Going twice? Issue time it is.
All right. So this week, Manan's going to be out this week, and we need to check in with Ikram to see how she's doing. So here's my thought for this week, is that Arvin and Jennifer and Ikram, if she's going to be here, should work together as a group of 3. I think that will be easier going forward because we still have just a little bit of loose ends to tie up from this week that Arvin and Manan, you've already gotten a great start on it, but we just need to like pull request and finish off tying that, adding those items to a specific shopping list that are tied to that token. So what I would say is, as a group, let's finish that up. So let me show you what I just created, this brand new issue. So I called it 4B. As a user, I want my shopping list items to be associated with a specific unique list. Right now, any items added to a shopping list are associated with the shopping list called lists. This is just in production. A shopping list should be associated with specific token, i.e. the 3-word phrase that is being saved in local storage when a user creates a list. So the acceptance criteria, when the user submits a shopping list item, the item is saved to the database, which you're already doing, but it's associated with the user's token that is saved in local storage. On the list view, the item name associated with that token or shopping list should be displayed as a simple unordered list. It's already displayed, it just needs to be like that shopping list. And then engineering notes, this is just some advice. It might be a good idea to check for the token like at the app level, check for the token at the app level and get the list at the app level and then pass that stuff down as props or as context. It'll make it easier going forward. So keep the state up as high as possible. And in this case, having it at the app level instead of like on the list page or on the add item page will help you going forward. Questions about this one? So it's really just the work already that Arvin and Manan did this morning, but maybe with the exception of moving that state up to the app level. Okay, so let's start with this one, and then we have this is a little bit different path. Normally we would take issues 5 and 6, but because you're down a person and because we're still kind of tying up the last issue, I don't want to overburden you this week with 2 more issues. So I think that we should do this issue as well. And if we don't finish it, it's totally cool. Remember that Collab Lab is like, this isn't school, you're not being graded. We want this to be a great experience for you and to get out of it what you all need to get out of it. And that doesn't necessarily mean having the perfect shopping list app at the end of 8 weeks. But let's then focus on this issue. As a user, I want to join an existing shopping list so I can share a shopping list with another person. So Jennifer, this is kind of something that you were working on a little bit. So this is that next piece of that token. So tokens can be shared with other users to allow them to co-manage a given list. Joining an existing list consists of the following. So the user enters an existing token. They save the token to local storage, and then we show the user that existing list. The acceptance criteria. When the user does not already have a token in local storage, on that home screen that you've already created, a simple form is displayed that allows the user to enter a token. So let's say I already have a shopping list that's associated with my token, and I want to share it with my partner, right? I will give him the token and then he can enter it on his home screen and then be able to see my shopping list. Entering the token and hitting submit saves the token to local storage, effectively giving them joint control of the list. So we're sharing a list. On submit, show an error if the token does not exist. And if they get an error message, allow them to try again or create a new list. So at the end of this story, the welcome home screen will be feature complete, as reflected in this wireframe. Right, so we already have this create a new list functionality, and then we're going to add being able to share a token. So if I come to this list, I should be able to enter the token that someone shared with me and to join an existing list. Oh, Arvin had to go. Okay. See you. What questions do you have about this one? Okay, so let's start, and the group of three of you will finish off the kind of tidy up the loose ends for the work for this week with 4B. Once that one's done, then we can move on to issue number 5. And as always, like the more you let us know in Slack how you're doing and what help we can provide, that's super useful for us. Manon, I hope you have a great week, and I'm really looking forward to beautiful pictures of the Bahamas.
Thank you. Yeah, like this was really helpful. I just wanted to see what I would be coming back into, like when I come back. So, okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Jennifer, how you feeling?
I'll feel better when some of those changes that Manon and Arvin did are merged. Once everything's working together on the main, I'll feel a lot better moving forward.
Nice. So that's really what that 4B, that first issue that you're all tackling, that's that ticket. That's that user story.
Yes. Okay, thank you guys. Have fun, Manon.
Thank you.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. I will post that those Slack threads, the Parabot thread, and I'll see you soon on Slack.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great
Thanks,
week.
everyone.
You too.